This might be as much Fast 5 Series as you really need. Detroit, Michigan. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure the new M5 will be absolutely astonishing once we finally get a chance to slip behind the wheel. Yet having spent 2 long stints at the helm of the BMW M550i, both in California and the Midwest, I can't help but argue this is about as much fast as most people need in their 5 Series. I know, I'm being a killjoy, trust me, I still am itching to get a crack at that 600 horsepower M5. The truth is, though, that the M550i is tremendously capable and already delivers more performance than can be sensibly exercised on public roads. Pros. Oh, it's fast. Yes, it's quicker to 60 miles per hour from a stop than the old M5, by as much as half a second, depending on transmission, but that really doesn't tell the whole story about this car's acceleration. The bi-turbocharged V8 has a cavernous reserve of torque, and it's all dished up near instantly thanks to the twin-scroll turbo's quick wake-up times and the promptness with which the automatic transmission downshifts. It's the sort of car that makes one go, wait, how fast? Never do I ever wonder if I've got enough oomph to blitz past a slower motorist or beat other cars down an on-ramp. Just point, accelerate, and get there. Can still play the part of a cruiser. On a long highway journey with American speed limits, rather than Autobahn ones, one may as well settle in and relax. The M550i does this superbly, offering up a composed ride over broken pavement while fending off wind noise. In other words, when you're not driving it like you stole it, the M550i is no less pleasant than the 530i and 540i. Use the Eco Pro driving mode and the adaptive cruise control, and it will even coast in neutral downhills or when slowing for traffic to eke out every possible bit of fuel efficiency. May as well save that gas for your next blast away from a toll booth, after all. You'll never unstick it. Man, there's a lot of grip here, and not only because all 4 wheels are driven. The M adaptive suspension, upgraded M Sport brakes, and wide rubber, 245/40R19 fronts, 275/35R19 rears, are more than up to the task of keeping the M550i pointed where you want. If you get it out of sorts on the road, well, it's your fault. In every other situation, this car just unflinchingly devours twists and turns. Cons. But where's the excitement? Like so many of BMW's recent performance cars, the M550i provides tons of speed but only ounces of excitement. There's a serious sense of disconnection from the brakes, the engine, and the steering gear. It's as if every control has a few too many rubber bushings isolating me from the experience. I struggle to feel really at one with this car, no matter how eagerly I thrash it or which of the many driving modes I select. Don't bother with gesture controls. I have yet to think of a reason why I'd remove my right hand from the steering wheel to change the radio volume or answer a phone call, given that those functions are already at my fingertips on the wheel. Moreover, if you've got friends who gesticulate a lot riding shotgun, they'll accidentally trigger the gesture controls all the time. I even accidentally cranked up the volume while lifting my coffee out of the cup holder. At risk of sounding like a Luddite, this feels like a solution looking for a problem. Behind the times on smartphone integration. There's no Android Auto support on the infotainment system, and even Apple CarPlay connectivity is a $300 option. Now, BMW is far from the only automaker without those features. See our extensive list here, but it's an annoying omission from a company that is otherwise so focused on packing more tech into its cars. Competitors: Audi S6, Cadillac CTS V Sport, Infiniti Q70 5.6, Lexus GSF, Mercedes AMG E43.
Asheville, Tennessee. With casual glance, it was easy to dismiss the 2018 Infiniti Q50 sedan's unveiling late last winter at the Geneva Motor Show. But mid-cycle refreshes are important, especially in the highly competitive BMW 3 Series segment, which nevertheless is shrinking due to the growth of premium/luxury SUVs. Visually, the 2018 model year facelift for the Q50 is pretty subtle. Introduced in 2014 and first updated for the 16 model year, exterior clues are relegated to new front and rear fascias, new wheels, and new trim level designations aside from our test car, a twin-turbo V6 powered Red Sport 400. Infiniti also has upgraded the interior with a new stitched instrument panel, new steering wheel, an Infiniti signature shifter, and upgraded gauge and ambient lighting, with significant differences between the Red Sport 400 and the more quotidian models. There are new semi-autonomous safety features, reduced NVH, and improved vehicle dynamic control. Infiniti now offers an optional 16-speaker stereo from Bose's high-fidelity performance series, and it sounds wonderfully clear and bright. The Red Sport's interior makes heavy use of black-colored materials and carbon fiber-like details without coming off as dark as Johnny Cash's suit closet. There are new trim level names for the rest of the range, and you can expect this to roll out across the Infiniti line while you're still trying to figure out if the Q50 corresponds to the old G35 and G37. It does. There's Pure, Base, Looks, Mainstream Premium, Sport, and Red Sport. Pure and Looks Q50s get a new base engine, a 208 horsepower 2.0-liter turbo 4. The Looks also is available with the newly added 300 horse 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 or, in the hybrid Looks, the 360 net horsepower combination of a 3.5-liter V6 with a 50 kilowatt electric motor. Our subject car comes with the 400 HP version of the 3.0-liter twin-turbo V6. All come with a 7-speed automatic, and all can be had in rear or all-wheel drive. And Infiniti has added rack-based electronic power steering, standard, and has made improvements to the optional direct adaptive steering, the first mass-market steer-by-wire offered in the US market, introduced 4 years ago. A lot of learning has gone in on DAS, says US product planner Anand Patel. And you have to give Infiniti credit for picking itself up and brushing itself off after auto journalists unanimously panned the system when it made its debut. So the big question is it good? Well, it's much improved. Feel and feedback are okay, and it does point the car where you want it to, though it still feels a bit funny and artificial on center. Like most cars in this category, switching the vehicle dynamic control to Sport or Sport Plus adds a bit more weight, while altering the shift points. The thing is, it's at least as good as the erstwhile benchmark, the BMW 3 Series, which has lost its way and grew a layer of isolation with the latest model. Best steering in the category now belongs to the Cadillac ATS, Alfa Romeo Giulia, at least, the Quadrifoglio, which is the only variant I've driven so far, and maybe the Jaguar XE. Fear not, Infinitista. Improvement is the right direction, and anyway, you can forego DAS in favor of a conventional electric power steering with the electronics mounted on the steering rack, as noted above. DAS is part of a $2,700 proactive package available on all Turbo 6 models, and if you decide to save the cash, you also give up intelligent cruise control, blind spot intervention, lane departure prevention, and active lane control, adaptive front lighting, and high beam assist. I know I'm showing my age, but it seems like it would be easy to live without much of this if you like driving a driver's car. And a driver's car, the 2018 Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 is. Throttle tip-in betrays a bit of turbo lag, but otherwise the car takes off like a, choose your cliché. Let's say, a runaway German train on the Autobahn, but with strong brakes that can confidently reel the car in. Ride is firm with the 19-inch wheels, but without the crash-over bump motion that can easily afflict a high-strung sport sedan. I'm happy that Infiniti didn't shoot for an even 20 on the wheel size. Body roll and understeer are minimal, at least as far as I could tell on S-infested roads outside of Nashville, including the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Since it was a mere G35, Infiniti's BMW 3 Series Fighter has been a formidable, lower-priced competitor for what once was the segment's standard bearer. With its most recent updates, the Q50's answer to the M3 appears to have caught its benchmark car. A longer, more intensive drive is needed to make a more definitive assessment. Keep working on the direct adaptive steering, Infiniti, and you can catch the segment's new leaders. All grown up. You notice the muted snarl when you nail the gas. Then you notice the soft rustle of wind around the A-pillars, the distant hum of the tires, and the concert hall clarity of the Bang & Olufsen audio system, even at triple-digit velocities. Yes, the 2018 Audi RS5 Coupe is all grown up a smooth, quiet, comfortable, connected Grand Tourer, albeit one that packs a 450 HP punch and, if you tick the right options box, a top speed of 174 miles per hour. All taut surfaces and sharp edges, the new RS5 showcases the crisp design language being developed under the aegis of new Audi design chief Mark Licht. Only the hood, roof, and trunk are shared with the regular A5/S5 coupes. The grille is shallower and wider, the fenders have been pumped 0.6 inch each side, and the new front and rear bumpers are adorned with the usual performance car perquisites such as vents, spoilers, splitters, and diffusers. All US market RS5s will come with black trim and 20-inch forged alloy wheels shod with 275/30 tires front and rear. Although 2.9 inches longer overall, the new RS5 weighs 132 pounds less than the previous model, and 33 pounds of that weight saving is in the body alone, which makes extensive use of aluminum stampings, extrusions, and castings. A carbon fiber roof panel is available in Europe, saving an additional 6.6 pounds, but it won't be made available in the US. Inside is another of Audi's typically classy interiors, rich in stitched leather and soft sheen aluminum. US spec RS5s will come standard with carbon fiber trim. 90% of buyers of the previous model opted for it, and Audi's impressively configurable virtual cockpit digital instrumentation pack. A new RS-specific head-up display that shows engine oil temperature, lap time, and shift lights in addition to speed and NAV information will make its debut on the RS5. The 0.6-inch stretch in wheelbase compared with the previous RS5, combined with new slimline sports seats, has given rear seat passengers almost an inch more knee room. The big news is under the hood, however. At the business end of the MLB Evo platform is the performance version of Audi's new turbocharged V6, codenamed EA389. In the A5/S5 the engine is a 3.0 liter, but in the RS5 it displaces 2.9 liters. The reason? A shorter stroke that helps the fuel/air mixture better fill the combustion chamber. The mixture is helped into the cylinders by two turbochargers mounted in the V that deliver a maximum of 0.95 boost. Peak power is 450 HP, which is line ball with the output of the naturally aspirated 4.2-liter V8 that powered the previous generation car. The key difference is the V8's power peak came just north of 8,000 RPM while the twin-turbo V6 delivers its maximum power from 5,700 RPM to 6,700 RPM. The engine drives all four wheels of course through a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission rather than the 7-speed dual-clutch auto used in the last car. In the RS5 the Quattro system delivers 60% of the torque to the rear wheels under normal conditions, but it can channel up to 85% to the fronts if it detects slip. The rear sport differential can also actively vary the torque to each of the rear wheels to ensure maximum traction, and all wheels can be individually braked to improve cornering agility. The RS5 rides 0.3 inch lower than the regular S5. Dynamic ride control, which uses steel springs and 3-stage adjustable shocks connected diagonally via oil lines running through a central valve to reduce diagonal pitching and roll through corners, will be available as an option in the US as part of a dynamic pack that includes red brake calipers and the RS Sport exhaust with black tips. Those RS5 owners who want more can upgrade further with the Dynamic Plus pack, which adds giant 15.7-inch carbon ceramic brakes up front, a tire temperature and pressure display function, a carbon fiber engine cover, and most importantly ups the car's top speed from 155 miles per hour to 174 miles per hour. With its bellowing, naturally aspirated 4.2-liter V8 under the hood, the old RS5 had a whiff of hooligan about it, a NASCAR good old boy in a Hugo Boss suit. This new one is a much more cultured ride, and our experience confirms initial impressions after driving 6-cylinder versions of the new Porsche Panamera. This Audi engine is a benchmark V6. But the laws of physics are immutable, and a 90-degree V6, no matter how well engineered, is never going to feel as free and fulsome as a 90-degree V8. Audi's sound engineers have done a spectacular job. The RS5 growls like a hungry grizzly bear on upshifts and snap crackle pops discreetly on downshifts, and it's all done in the exhaust pipes, they say, not through the speakers, but there's no disguising the faint graininess in the delivery. It was difficult to resist the temptation to take the old RS5's free revving V8 to its 8,300 RPM red line, not just for the hell of it, but also because that's where the power was. It's difficult to justify taking the new RS5's V6 much beyond 5,700 RPM, even in dynamic mode, and not just because that's where the power curve peaks before running flat through the next 1000 RPM. The old V8 developed 317 lb-ft at 4000 RPM. The new V6 has 442 lb-ft available from 1900 RPM through 5000 RPM. It's a torque monster, and rapid progress is most effortlessly achieved by short shifting before the digital touch starts flashing red to warn of the approaching rev limit. As a result, the new RS5 doesn't sound as hellfire fast as the old one and doesn't feel it, either, thanks to better damping and more consistent steering that help deliver a calmer dynamic demeanor. Yet the stylish Audi Coupe proved impressively fast over the switchback mountain passes on our test route through the tiny Principality of Andorra, high in the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. As with all MLB-based performance Audis, the new RS5 rewards precise corner entry when driven briskly. Although the 2.9-liter V6 is 68 pounds lighter than the 4.2-liter V8, its mass is still alright over the front axle. This is not a chassis that naturally wants to rotate in a hurry. But those big front tires deliver a ton of grip, and the RS5 will go exactly where you point it, especially with the optional dynamic ride control system offering additional support to the outside front corner of the car. Then it's a matter of a little patience before getting hard on the gas as the corner opens up. The Audi digs deep into that rich vein of torque and, with the rear diff carefully monitoring the traction algorithms, slingshots out of corners. At low speeds in dynamic mode, the suspension still returns sharp vertical motions on a rough road, but there's more finesse to it all than in the old car, and as speeds increase the ride calms down nicely. Again, the dynamic ride control system seems a worthwhile option, deftly quelling excessive diagonal pitch and roll motions. For daily driving, switch the Audi Drive Select to Auto mode. Let the 8-speed automatic do the thinking, and sit back and enjoy the RS5's quiet and comfortable cruising capability. There's plenty of power on tap when you need to pass or plug a gap in fast-moving freeway traffic. There's no need to fuss over whether you're in the right gear. Torque is your friend. The 2018 Audi RS5 is more restrained car than either the old RS5 or AMG's loud and urgent C63S Coupe, and that's just the way the folks at Audi Sport say they want it to be. The new RS5, they insist, is the Gran Turismo of the Audi Sport RS lineup, a car designed to be driven long distances at high speed without raising a sweat. It's still quick. The claimed 0-60 mph time of less than 3.9 seconds is right in C63's territory, but it's more relaxing. Understand that, and you won't be disappointed. First cars arrive in the US in the first quarter of next year, with a price tag expected to be around $70,000. It might be the performance engine of the new Audi V6 lineup, but the twin-turbo EA389 engine uses an innovative combustion process developed by Volkswagen Group engineers to save fuel. It's called the B-cycle, and it is essentially an evolution of the Miller cycle process invented by American engineer Ralph Miller in the 1950s and used by Mazda in the supercharged 2.3-liter V6 that powered the Millennia sedan more than a decade ago. The basic idea behind a Miller cycle engine is to leave the intake valve open on the compression phase longer than normal and using a turbocharger or supercharger to compensate for the fuel-air mix forced out of the cylinder and through the open valve by the rising piston. The advantage is the mechanical compression ratio can be kept high. It's 10.0:1 in the EA389 and the compression phase short. Combustion takes place in a relatively small volume, and the expansion phase is longer than normal, enhancing efficiency. Audi compensates for the Miller cycle's inherently smaller cylinder charge with twin turbochargers and the two-stage Audi valve lift system, AVS. At higher load and engine speed ranges, AVS closes the inlet valve later. The opening time increases from 130 to 200 degrees crankshaft angle, while at the same time the valve lift increases from 0.2 inch to 0.4 inch. Another key element of the Audi design is the central position of the injectors in the combustion chamber. The common rail system directly injects the fuel into the combustion chamber at 3625 psi to ensure a homogeneous spray pattern and a uniform propagation of the flame front. Audi claims the B-cycle system, which has been specifically designed to be most effective under partial throttle loads, helps the EA389 deliver 17% better fuel efficiency, as measured on the European cycle, than the 4.2-liter V8 it replaces, despite producing the same power and 39% more torque. Cylinders does nothing to hurt the character, speed, or driving joy of the Space DB11. Rancho Santa Fe, California. When Hunter S. Thompson wrote, "Buy the ticket, take the ride," he was not speaking about sports cars. But for some reason it's that phrase that's echoing in the back of my head as I kick the throttle of this Aston Martin, and cause an eruption of sound energy to crack through the dry air of the surrounding Sonoran desert. There's something about driving hard into the desert. And though I'm no kind of gonzo, the sound and force of this Aston V8 does serve as a kind of liquor in the blood. The harder I push and the higher it howls. V8 isn't a footnote or a throwaway line here, either. It's the reason Aston asked me out to Southern California at all. It's been a year since we brought you the first drive of the DB11 with the traditional V12 underhood. Now the British company is ready to launch the slightly less expensive V8 iteration of the GT car, a car that, frankly, won't be sold much in the US but should do well in markets like Asia and Europe. And the truth is that, down on power or not, it might just be the pick of the line. The engine at issue is a Bitterbach-arched 4.0-liter V8 that you'll recognize from the very sexy Mercedes-AMG parts bin. Developing 503 horsepower and 498 pound-feet of torque, the V8 gives up 93 HP and 18 lb-ft in addition to 4 cylinders, but it's down just 0.1 seconds to 62 miles per hour, versus the V12 DB11. And though I personally find top speed to be the most irrelevant statistical measure in motoring, I will report that the DB11 V8 can only muster 187 miles per hour, to the double ton registered by the V12. Call this a Mercedes motor if you must, I'll call it sonic force for delight as the revs pile up. Aston has completely retuned both intake and exhaust to make the German engine sound more British. For those of us that don't collect classic supercars, British here that means a much smoother exhaust note, one that's quieter at its peak volume than, say, a Mercedes-AMG GT. Though to call it quiet overall would be a lot. In fact, the Aston engineers have done a wonderful job allowing the V8 to be heard, growly but not harsh, even at low speeds, so one isn't tempted to drift into a leather-clad stupor, and forget what they're behind the wheel of. Forgetting the noises it makes and the stopwatch reading, the DB11 V8 feels extraordinarily quick. Even in the most relaxed of the 3 driving modes, GT, Sport, and Sport Plus, throttle response is sharp, and speed piles up in a linear, thrilling fashion. Here's where the desert portion of my drive route really showed the Aston well, with long, straight stretches of undulating pavement just begging for high-speed frolic. The 8-speed ZF automatic transmission is absolutely a partner to the engine, and not a gatekeeper to delights. Sport and mode auto shifts happened when and where I wanted them, though I was happy, when climbing and descending mountain roads, to grab for gears myself, via 2 big and useful paddle shifters behind the wheel. That kind of quick reaction time, combined with smooth low-speed takeoff in traffic and around town, meant I was never left wanting a dual clutch. Now, let's talk about mountain roads. Trip planners thoughtfully included routes up and down San Diego County's Palomar Mountain, on roads that I was lucky to find basically empty, save other DB11 drivers, and one very enthusiastic Nissan GT-R. I tend to think of Aston Martins as exceptional fast GT cars, not as well suited for tight roads, a feeling that's reinforced when I look at the DB11 in profile, where it appears to be a mile-long stretch of car-formed sex. But the new Aston was not only willing, but eager, to eat up miles of switchbacks and other tight corners. It was here that the stiffest of 3 adaptive damper settings felt pretty perfect, allowing for remarkably quick changes of direction, followed by the grip and thrust allowed by giant rear rubber, 295 section tires, and the healthy power delivery. Steering action was light and accurate, and though I didn't get a huge amount of feedback through the tiller, it was never so vague as to kill my confidence. It bears mentioning that the more than 200 pounds saved with the V8 versus the V12 helps, of course, in this sort of driving. If I'm being totally honest, even with the excellent behavior on good roads, there are faster, more nimble vehicles to be had in the lofty world of $200,000 sports cars. Does the Audi R8 or Porsche 911 Turbo or McLaren 570s get me up and down the mountain faster? Almost certainly. But, of course, the Aston Martin proposition has as much to do with style, as it does blistering performance. And let's face it, this car looks insanely good. The DB11 shape is an instant classic, somehow much more demure than other supercars while still looking like an absolute spaceship when seen next to mortal cars on regular roads. The Aston is long, curving and lovely, its shape painstakingly encapsulating complex aerodynamic aids without resorting to anything so common as a wing. There is a small deployable spoiler that creates downforce from air channeled through vents that start behind the doors, but it's quite subtle, even when raised. And when I look at the classic wide grille on the low, comely nose, it's almost like looking into the future of the Pebble Beach lawn. The DB11 is also far less shouty a design than the current Vanquish, it must be said. In other Aston tests I've written, this would be the part of the story where I gush over the craftsmanship of the interior, while bemoaning its functionality and tech, relative to the price. The bitchy part of that equation has been mostly excised in this new DB. Aston's technical partnership with Daimler has also netted its own version of the common infotainment system, meaning the car gets modern navigation, stereo controls, and connectivity, to go along with acres of unblemished bridge-of-wear leather upholstery. The cabin is completely sumptuous to look at and to sit in. And I'm happy to report, for myself and for the current crop of NBA guards, that the front chairs sit a 6-foot, 5-inch body just fine. The seats drop really low to the floor so I didn't suffer for headroom, and it wasn't a problem finding a vantage point for great forward visibility, minus the very thick A-pillars. The rear seats are perfectly trimmed cubbies for your laptop bag or some light shopping, human passengers need not apply. The DB11 V8 will start at $198,995 in the US, a surprisingly thin discount over the $216,495 price of the V12. But, of course, the cost of a Kia Rio isn't going to make the difference for any buyers in this stratosphere. For me, it's the neater handling of the lower-powered car, far more than the price, that makes it an obvious choice as the DB to have. I also like the cleaner look of the V8 S2 vent hood, when compared with the V12 S4 vent affair, but that's clearly pretty personal. The true test of the DB11, in that price range, is whether it will falter or flourish versus cars aimed squarely at performance, like the aforementioned 911 turbos and McLaren 570s of the world. After all, the competition around $200,000 is staggering, and, really, there's not a GOAT, or GOAT, amongst the group. But for those who have already been infected with Aston Martin lust, or collectors and connoisseurs of the brand, the DB11 is as much a gem as the V8 engine that lives beneath its hood. Given the cash, this is one ticket I'd be happy to take OL Hunter's advice on. up Aston's free-breathing V12 Vanquish one last time. Los Angeles, California. Among his many words of wisdom, automotive journalism legend David E. Davis, Jr., had a firm belief that everyone should drive, or own, a V12 car at least once in their life. And while the newer crop of turbo and biturbo 12 cylinders are, in their own rights, damn good, I have a feeling David E.'s words are better suited to engines of the naturally aspirated type. Engines like the 6.0-liter V12 under the hood of the Aston Martin Vanquish S. The free-breathing V12 is a dying breed. When the Vanquish goes out of production, so too will its engine, as Aston Martin looks to turbocharging, and electrification, for its future. So it's in the spirit of David E. that I drive the pants off Aston's incredibly gorgeous, super analog, 12-cylinder GT car one last time. Pros. A total powerhouse. Dig into the throttle and unleash a wave of power, 595 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque, delivered with total liner riding. Without the peaks and valleys of power that plague some turbo engines, you quickly learn exactly where to keep the tachometer needle pegged to stay in the Vanquish's meaty power band. Give it hell from a standstill and you'll hit 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. Keep the engine on boil in third and fourth gears and you'll always have enough thrust to blast out of a corner, a deep, 12-cylinder roar accompanying your every move. The full experience of this engine's power delivery, the feeling, the sound, is intoxicating. The joy of analog. I almost forgot how refreshing it is to drive a car with hydraulic steering. There is a heft and a level of feedback to the setup that even the best electronically assisted units cannot match, and it's this connection with the Vanquish that gives me more and more confidence as I hustle it down winding roads. Sport and GT. As enjoyable as the Vanquish is to drive fast down a great road, it's a formidable grand tourer. On the long stretches of freeway that lead out of Los Angeles into the mountains, I'm enjoying a relaxed, comfortable ride, with a huge reserve of power available for zipping around that infamous left lane Prius. Beauty never ages. The Vanquish shape has been around since 2012, itself an evolution of the DBS that debuted in 2007. But it's still drop-dead gorgeous. Stunning to behold, with flowing lines and an aura of elegance, I have no doubt the Vanquish will continue to look smashing for decades to come. Cons. Technology, however, does. The Vanquish wasn't exactly a technological powerhouse when it debuted, and in this regard, it hasn't aged well. The infotainment screen is small, with bad graphics, controlled by a series of dials and buttons on the center stack that are often frustrating to use. Even the push-button gear selectors, with their large print greeting card typefaces, look out of place here. Hell, even the minuscule information display inside the gauge cluster looks 8-bit compared to the beautiful digital displays that are quickly becoming commonplace with high-end automakers. Considering this car's starting price of over $300,000, you'd be right to expect better. Louder, lower. Small gripe, this car is too quiet below 3000 RPM, even with sport mode activated, it opens the exhaust flaps. Oh sure, once you get cooking there's a sonorous roar from both engine and tailpipes, but I don't want to have to rev the crap out of this thing just to hear that sweet roar. More money, less performance. There's a whole class of exotics, Audi R8, McLaren 570s and 570 GT, Porsche 911 Turbo, that are both quicker and cheaper than this $312,950 Vanquish. I love the exclusivity of an Aston Martin, but it's certainly worth nothing that you can have a bit more bang for a lot less buck, with equal, or more, head-turning prowess. Competitors. Bentley Continental GT. Mercedes-AMG S65 Coupe. Rolls-Royce Raid.